In an older video, I put forward some ideas for third-party characters that I'd like to see come to Wave 2 of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's Fighters Pass. One of these suggestions consisted of Bill Riser and Lance Bean from the Contra series, but I figured I'd go into further detail, seeing as the Smash community seemed to be sleeping on their potential. What is up everybody, I hope you're all good. My name is Peter, and like I said, this video will be about the underrated potential that the Contra boys have in Smash Ultimate. I feel like these guys don't get talked about enough when it comes to the Smash speculation scene as a whole, yet I feel that they are ideal candidates for DLC for a multitude of reasons. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first reason I wanted to bring up is the fact that I find Contra to be one of the games to be synonymous with the NES, as well as 1980s gaming in general. Being a prime example of the type of game you'd find during this time, where it plays simply enough, but is excruciatingly challenging to master, Contra's legacy would be ideal to see represented in Smash Bros. This is because Bill and Lance could very well fit the purpose of being more retro characters in a Smash game that is mostly focused on newer faces that have been introduced over the past decade. We already have representation from other 80s and 90s icons like Sonic, Street Fighter and Castlevania, and I feel like Contra belongs with these other industry-defining classics that also have a strong history on Nintendo platforms like the latter two examples mentioned. Additionally, I wanted to go over why Contra will help represent yet another corner of gaming to add to Ultimate's crossover appeal. This is because Contra is heavily responsible for influencing the run and gun genre of games. Being one of the first of its kind, Contra paved the way for other titles that involve blasting through hordes of enemies with explosive results, such as Metal Slug, Gunstar Heroes, and Cuphead. Run and gun games are notorious for keeping players on their toes, with fast-paced action and generally satisfying gameplay, and it is for this reason why I feel Contra deserves some love in gaming's biggest crossover, for its revolutionary impact on what I think is a rather underappreciated genre in Smash as a whole. Seeing as we've got platformers, RPGs, fighting games and action adventures aplenty, let's create more room for a genre we haven't really seen all that much of. Another reason why I think the inclusion of a Contra character in Smash would make sense is because I feel that Ultimate was rather lacking in terms of retro representatives. While Castlevania is strongly associated with its origins on the NES, it has also gone beyond that era, with the likes of Symphony of the Night to form the Vania part of the Metroidvania genre, as well as the animated series on Netflix, so it has more than just the original trilogy attached to its identity. While Contra has also seen more releases beyond the arcade and NES original, I think it's safe to say that most of us automatically think of these classic entries when Contra springs to mind. The series has also still been somewhat active since, with the likes of Contra Rogue Core and the Contra Anniversary Collection, both from 2019, so I don't really see the lack of relevancy being a significant deal breaker in this case. Furthermore, I think Konami have been one of the third parties that have been a bit more loose when it comes to allowing assets from their properties to be included in Smash. Square Enix. Joking aside, Konami have allowed several music tracks from Castlevania, the return of Metal Gear series representation after its absence in Smash 4, Bomberman as an assist trophy, a good number of Spirits and Mii costumes, just to name a few examples. Despite the controversial reputation they've had in the past decade, they do seem to be up for representing their properties in Smash compared to other third parties, as they've shown by the sheer amount of Konami-related content already present within Ultimate. So maybe they'd be up for playable representation from arguably one of their most classic properties. Now let's get into why I think the characters themselves would fit the mold of Smash really well. Like I mentioned at the start, I think it would make sense to include the main protagonist of the original Contra, consisting of Bill Riser, with Lance Bean thrown in as a bonus Echo Fighter. Alternatively, they could very well share the same slot in the same way that Olimar and Alf do, or Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings is another example. Seeing as Contra was popular when it comes to cooperative multiplayer, I just felt it wasn't right to exclude one of the iconic duo while the other has the glory to themselves. Anyway, Bill and Lance's animations will be faithfully replicated to resemble their movement on the NES, in the same way we've seen with Mega Man and the Belmonts. Their primary weapon is of course their rifle, which they can shoot in 8 different directions and continue to use while walking. As you play through Contra, you come across different upgrades for the weapon, which include a laser beam, a flamethrower, and the fan favourite spreader. In Smash, however, you could have the option to switch between them to adapt to the situation. The spreader might be a bit overpowered as the Origin game has established, so maybe we could balance it out by making each weapon upgrade better suited for different situations. To give an example, the laser could be more useful for longer ranged attacks, while the flamethrower is ideal for opponents that are closer in proximity. Something else that I think could make Bill and Lance stand out from the already diverse roster that we have could be that they could have access to the infamous Konami code. Introduced in the original Gradius, the Konami code was popularised in Contra, making it the game that people have mostly associated it with as a result. In the original source material, putting this code in would grant additional lives to the player if they were having a hard time progressing the game's brutal difficulty, but I don't think this would work in the context of Smash. Instead, I think it could be used to give the boys a little power boost. Nothing that will make them broken, but something that could make a difference in tense matches. To balance it out a little, it could be very difficult to pull off, as players must input it without being interrupted, and they are given the choice to either focus on attacking or trying to boost their stats, giving them a level of strategy that we don't really see with other characters. The closest I could compare this to would be a combination between Shulk's Monado arts and the command inputs used in some of Ryu, Ken and Terry's moves. Anyway, those were the ideas I have for if we ever saw playable Contra representation in Smash Bros. Let me know if you think this idea has potential, or feel free to tell me of any characters that you think the Smash community is sleeping on. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later.